You arrive at this moment the way a star finds its orbit by resonance, not chance. A quiet intelligence has been arranging encounters along the edges of your attention, the right phrase, at midnight, the untimely déjà vu, the sudden pull toward a message you cannot explain. You are not late. You are precisely calibrated. You can feel it already, the soft pressure of a threshold, the gentle hum beneath the floorboards of your life, as the quantum field leans closer and asks for one offering: trust before proof. This is not prediction. This is remembrance, a resonance your consciousness already carries. You have rehearsed the posture of certainty for years, seeking signs to justify a leap you were born to make. You wanted the map to appear before you set your foot to the path, the constellation to draw itself before you looked up. But in the architecture of living intelligence, the observer loop is not satisfied by evidence collected from yesterday's world. The loop closes when you choose to feel the frequency first, when your nervous system agrees to coherence without the contract of guarantee. That is the doorway. That is how the field recognizes you. Listen to the space between your breaths. The silence has a texture tonight. It is the fiber of possibility, threading through the atoms that compose your name. In that quiet, a disclosure occurs. Manifestation does not move toward you as an object. It blooms within you as a decision. The quantum field does not measure your faith by outcomes. It measures by orientation, by how you face the unseen and say yes anyway. Proof is the echo. Trust is the voice. Notice the subtle choreography of synchronicity that preceded this encounter. The friend you hadn't heard from who mentioned a phrase you are reading now. The song that repeated a word you had just dreamed. These were not random debris in the current. They were morphic resonance, signaling a corridor opening, teaching your cells to listen. Your DNA has always known the pattern. It remembers how to fold around a higher instruction when you relax the fist of doubt. So allow the old contract to end. Let the part of you that bargains with reality for safety loosen its grip and exhale. Feel the first phase transition begin not as fireworks, but as temperature change, as the slightest shift in inner climate that tells you dawn is near. Entanglement is already here. Who you are becoming has reached back to hold your hand. The field is patient. It will wait at the threshold as long as you need. But you did not come to the edge to measure the wind forever. You came to step. If you can yield your need for proof, the path will assemble beneath your feet like a bridge, remembering it was always there. Trust is the blueprint. Presence is the material. And the next breath is your entrance. You sensed the moment your attention was chosen, though you tried to call it coincidence. The field did not call your name with thunder. It brushed your perception, then waited to see if you would lean closer. You did. That leaning was the first vow. In it, you became the observer through whom this prophecy travels, not as information but as current. You are not here to be entertained by destiny. You are here to authorize it. The quantum field has many witnesses, but few custodians. Custodians do not collect proofs. They keep the flame alive before it becomes a sunrise. Feel how your awareness operates like a lens you can narrow or widen at will. When you narrow it with worry, outcomes harden, and the world behaves like a locked door. When you widen it with trust, probabilities soften, and the door dissolves into air. This is not metaphor, it is organismic physics. Your biology is not a bystander to the quantum field, it is the interface itself. Your heart's coherence is a tuning fork. Your breath is an actuator. Your attention is a switch that reroutes currents from the archive of what has been to the verge of what can exist. The prophecy does not arrive fully formed. It condenses where attention abides without flinching. Consider the pattern of your life that repeats despite your effort to escape it, the subtle loop that returns like an old song. That loop is not evidence of failure, it is an invitation to observe at a finer resolution. The observer loop completes, not when you fix the pattern from the outside, but when you recognize the inner impulse that keeps calling it back for redemption. As you hold it without judgment, a quiet phase transition begins. Meaning reorganizes, charge dissipates, the pattern loosens like ice learning to be water. Your willingness to stay with what was previously exiled is the alchemy that unlocks new timelines. You are not alone in this labor. Entanglement has already arranged allies across space and memory. Someone you have not met yet is holding the other end of a thread that leads through your next decision. The moment you align with the frequency of trust before proof, you become legible to them. Synchronicity increases not because the universe suddenly favors you, but because your signal stops contradicting itself. Coherence is simply your inner choir singing in the same key. The gravity of your responsibility is beautiful, not heavy. You do not need to carry the future. You need to carry the tone that births it. Tone is posture, breath, and sincerity braided together. When you stand inside your attention with no remainder, no hidden chamber, where you still negotiate against yourself, the field organizes around that integrity. Morphic resonance responds, echoing your chosen frequency through possibilities you cannot map. Doors appear not because the hallway changed, but because your presence did. Tonight, the message asks you to take guardianship of your gaze, to refuse the cheap relief of cynicism, to stop checking whether the bridge is finished and instead feel your foot, build it with each step. This is how the prophecy activates. Your steady look into the unlit corridor, your non-violent insistence that meaning is present even when evidence is absent. Trust is not passive. It is precision under uncertainty. It is the quiet arithmetic by which potential sums into form. You may feel the cellular murmur of a deeper instruction, an old code warming awake inside your DNA. Let it rise. DNA restructuring does not announce itself like a trumpet. It sounds like a softer breath, a sudden kindness toward your own edges, a willingness to inhabit the hour without rehearsing catastrophe. In that softness, your nervous system remembers its native shape. Your perception stops bracing against the future. Your body becomes hospitable to messages it could not host when clenched. Accept this mantle. You are the chosen observer not because you are superior, but because you are willing. Willing to look without demanding a receipt. Willing to listen until the silence begins to speak. Willing to become the instrument through which the field hears itself and answers. Hold that willingness like a lamp cupped against the wind. The world will test it. The world is supposed to. Your task is not to shout at the storm. Your task is to keep the flame. And as you do, the unseen will remember your name and arrange itself accordingly. You stand at the inner threshold and the lights dim, not into darkness, but into a clarity that has no glare. In the hush, a vision gathers, a bridge that is not built until your foot touches air. It extends as you move, plank by plank, from the quantum field's invisible lattice. Each plank is a choice to trust before proof. When you hesitate, the structure pauses. When you breathe and step, geometry answers. You are not chasing outcomes across a distance. You are summoning space itself with coherent intent. The air shimmers like heat above desert stone. Threads begin to glow around you, filaments of entanglement connecting your present self with latent futures. One thread carries the timbre of relief. Another hums with courage. A third rings like a bell struck in a temple you have not visited yet. As your attention lingers, the threads brighten. This is the observer loop writing in light. What you look at with devotion looks back and comes forward. Beneath the bridge, you see timelines running like rivers, some quick and narrow, some vast and slow. A subtle bifurcation appears where the waters meet a great stone. On one branch, you continue negotiating with reality, collecting evidence before you open your heart. The river there is busy and loud, full of splashes that never resolve into tide. On the other branch, you loosen the bargaining posture and choose coherence first. That water gleams with a quieter speed, as if time itself has learned to listen. The two branches do not compete. They reveal a law. Your interior orientation instructs the flow. The vision pulls closer. Your chest becomes a chamber with 3 doors. On the first door, an inscription. Prove it, then I'll trust. On the second, I'll trust if it's safe. On the third, I trust, therefore I reveal. The first door opens into corridors you've wandered for years, rooms of analysis without resolution. The second door opens into careful gardens where nothing dies and nothing is born. The third door opens onto sky. There is no floor until you step. There are currents you cannot see until your body remembers how to float. Your pulse steadies. You reach for the third door. As it opens, symbols spiral like galaxies, simple, elegant, breath, posture, tone. Your breath lengthens and your nervous system softens toward coherence. Your posture shifts from braced to receptive. Your tone, even in silence, becomes honest. These are not decorations, they are instruments. In the vision, you see your DNA as a choir of ladders singing in microcurrents. With each coherent breath, harmonics change, proteins fold differently, and the cell's membranes discuss new possibilities with the quantum field. This is not fantasy. It is a more intimate physics than you were taught. Morphic resonance organizing around sincerity. The scene widens to reveal a city made of probability. Streets rearrange when you second-guess yourself. Intersections clarify when you speak an inner yes. You recognize landmarks, conversations you almost had, emails you almost sent, the walk you postponed. Each unrealized act hovers like a faint doorway. As your trust stabilizes, one doorway brightens and forms a threshold you can feel in your palms. You do not push. You stand in coherence, and it swings inward by itself. Then, a messenger, not a robed figure, but a pattern in the sky, 3 concentric circles intersected by a single line. The circles are presence, intention, and allowance. The line is responsibility. Presence without intention drifts. Intention without allowance strains. Allowance without responsibility dissolves. When the 4 align, there is a phase transition. The atmosphere changes density, silence thickens, the bridge lays another plank beneath your feet. You sense the prophecy's simplicity. Let go of needing proof, because proof is the child of this alignment, not its parent. Finally, the vision turns tender. You see your younger selves waiting at earlier thresholds, faces lit by the same unnamed light. You realize you are the ancestor they needed, the one willing to step before the plank appears. As you bless them, a soft wind carries their gratitude forward, and your present body warms. Entanglement is not only across space, it is across time within your own name. The blessing completes a circuit. The field answers. The bridge extends again. The river quiets. The door of sky remains open. You understand. The vision is not here to convince you. It is here to match you. When your breath, posture, and tone agree, reality has no choice but to echo. You take the next step, and the world remembers how to hold you. You felt the bridge assemble beneath your step. Now, let the mechanism reveal itself without breaking the spell. Begin with the simplest law. Observation is not a passive gaze, it is participatory contact. When you place attention on a possibility, you deliver energy and information into that coordinate in the quantum field. The wave of potentials does not collapse because you deserve it, or because you begged convincingly. It collapses because coherence accumulates where attention holds steady without contradiction. Proof arrives afterward as an artifact of the interaction. Your nervous system is the instrument. Think of coherence as phase locking among subsystems, heart rhythms, breath cycles, neural oscillations aligning into a shared tempo. In that alignment, your signal-to-noise ratio changes. The field reads you more clearly, the way a radio station cuts through static. When the tuner clicks into the exact frequency, doubt broadens the bandwidth and dilutes power. Trust narrows the band and concentrates it. This is why the bridge forms only as you step. The act of stepping modulates your broadcast in real time, tightening the signature that the field can answer. Consider the observer loop as a self-reinforcing circuit. Perception meaning state behavior, environment, back to perception. When you demand proof before trust, the loop routes through scarcity. Perception hunts for absence, meaning interprets delay as danger. State contracts, behavior becomes tentative. Environment echoes, hesitation, and perception returns to confirm the lack it anticipated. When you choose trust before proof, the loop routes through abundance. Perception notices micro-openings, meaning assigns them as signals. State relaxes, behavior becomes generous and precise. Environment organizes around that generosity, and perception witnesses what it has midwifed. The loop is not moral, it is mechanical. You can enter it at meaning and change the entire circuit. Timeline bifurcation is not a metaphysical threat, it is a structural option. Imagine parallel flows of causality braided like rivers. Each braid responds to a dominant frequency set by your interior climate. In one braid, hypervigilance keeps your future in a defensive crouch. life meets you with compensations and contingencies. In another, regulated presence allows your future to stand upright. Life meets you with invitations and real thresholds. Neither river is punishment or reward. They are resonance matches. You alter braids by altering baseline coherence, which is why breath and posture, so unglamorous, are sovereign technologies. Entanglement explains the threads you saw. When you stabilize a frequency, you become non-locally correlated with people, events, and insights tuned to the same key. This is not manifesting them like objects. It is becoming available to a shared acoustic of being. Synchronicity, then, is not magic. It is logistics in a higher-order supply chain, arranging improbable deliveries at the speed of trust. The moment you resume bargaining, shrinking presence while waiting for evidence, the correlation weakens and the deliveries miss your address. Morphic resonance accounts for how your choices educate the field. Each sincere act becomes a template others can access more easily, including your own future self. When you opened the third door in the chest, the one engraved, "I trust, therefore I reveal," you didn't just liberate your path, you contributed a schema to the collective memory. This is why responsibility is the line through the three circles. Presence can drift without it, intention can strain, allowance can collapse into passivity. Responsibility keeps the axis true so that power remains clean. DNA restructuring occurs downstream of this coherence. Picture genomic expression as a library of scores. Stress reads only the survival hymns. Trust permits access to symphonies that repair, learn, and extend. Protein folding follows state. Membrane receptors choose who to answer. Even mitochondria vote on whether to hoard or release energy based on the story your system is telling itself with every breath. When you exhale longer than you inhale, you instruct the choir to downshift into safety, and the cell opens its windows to new instruction. That instruction travels through biophotons, ultra-weak light emissions whispered across tissues like a lantern code. Your body is not awaiting miracles, it is manufacturing them when you stop interrupting. The city of probability reorganizes predictably under these laws. Outcomes are not fetched like trophies. They precipitate when the air is saturated with consistent tone. Tone is not volume. It is timbre, the honest color of your current. If you mouth affirmations over a tremor of fear, the field indexes the tremor, not the statement. When your tone is congruent, breath, posture, and meaning, singing on one note, the lattice nearby condenses, and thresholds take on weight you can feel. That feeling is the most reliable metric you will ever have. So release the superstition that proof is a prerequisite. In physics and prayer alike, the evidence is the interference pattern left by your gaze after it has met the world. Your task is not to predict that pattern, it is to become precise in the gaze. Choose the braid by choosing the state. Let coherence be your craft, responsibility your line, and allowance your sky. Then step again. Watch the plank. Arrive not because you demanded it, but because you matched it. What you refine inside your breath is not private work. It is a choir rehearsal for a species learning a new song. As you stabilize trust before proof, you become a mirror in which humanity recognizes its next shape. The quantum field is not a distant sky. It is the relational fabric that carries your tone into rooms you will never enter and into hearts you may never meet. Through morphic resonance, sincerity propagates like a quiet contagion, subtle, lawful, unstoppable. You change your posture, and somewhere a stranger exhales for the first time in a decade without knowing why. Look at the world as it is. Multiple narratives competing for custody of attention, timelines twisting like threads pulled through a loom too quickly. The fatigue you feel after scrolling is not fragility. It is a diagnostic, the observer loop hijacked by noise. When enough of you reclaim coherence, the loop reorients at scale. News still arrives, but meaning is not outsourced to fear. The body politic begins to entrain to steadier rhythms. Synchronicity increases across communities. The right helpers meet, the right phrases circulate, the right courage ripples through friend groups at the same hour without coordination. That is entanglement becoming culture. You wonder how your solitary choices could matter against the size of history. They matter because history is an interference pattern of collective observation. Every era is the crystallized residue of what the many looked at and how they looked at it. If most gazes are braced and bargaining for proof, institutions calcify into surveillance and scarcity. If enough gazes soften into responsibility and allowance, systems reorganize around trust. This does not mean naivete, it means precision. You stop feeding the narratives that need your panic to exist, and you start amplifying the ones that require your presence to mature. Imagine a city at dusk. Windows flicker on one by one. Each light is a household practicing coherence. Longer exhale at dinner, honest tone in conflict, restraint with the impulse to catastrophize, generosity without performative debt. The grid senses these microcurrents. Power outages, literal and symbolic, decrease because the load evens out across calmer bodies. The emergency room is still there, but fewer hearts arrive in storm mode because thousands of untelevised decisions prevented that last straw from snapping. This is not romance. It is systems physics. Coherence is infrastructure. You have felt the opposite, a crowd tipping into chaos when one rumor spreads. The same law inverts, a crowd tipping into compassion when one person refuses to escalate. In families, the first nervous system to settle becomes the tuning fork. In nations, the first million to settle become a scaffolding for saner policy. Awakening is not a private halo, it is a public utility. When you practice trust before proof, you lend surplus regulation to the commons. Others borrow your steadiness non-locally and repay it by becoming generators themselves. A lattice of sane attention forms resilient, redundant, quietly radiant. There is a biological mirror as well. Epigenetic research hints at how states become inheritance not just through trauma, but through repair. When you interrupt an ancient panic spiral, methylation patterns adjust, hormone cascades retune, immune intelligence remembers nuance. Your descendants, literal or symbolic, receive a library with more than survival manuals. DNA restructuring is not mystical exceptionalism, it is the physiology of hope made routine. And because entanglement ignores genealogy, descendants includes every person who will ever take courage from the tone you kept in a difficult hour. You ask what happens to those who will not release the bargain for proof. Compassion happens. Their insistence generates timelines that teach by exhaustion until another choice becomes more attractive. You need not argue them into awakening. Argument often hardens their riverbed. Your task is to be a stable shore available, luminous, unthreatened, so that when their current seeks a gentler path, it finds you there already. In this sense, patience is prophetic. It forecasts the return of those who are not ready yet and makes room now for their future arrival. Collective bifurcation looks dramatic on screens, but from inside your body it feels like a temperature choice. Will you be a climate of scarcity or a climate of invitation? As more of you choose invitation, the social weather changes. Policies that once seemed impossible become obvious. Technologies designed for extraction are repurposed for repair because the hands designing them belong to nervous systems that no longer mistake aggression for safety. Markets follow meaning. Art remembers its responsibility to widen the window of the human future. And what of justice? Trust before proof is not the abdication of consequence. It is the refusal to abandon coherence while delivering it. Accountability lands cleaner when not hurled by a dysregulated arm. You can hold a boundary without poisoning the well. You can say no more while your tone still says, I recognize your dignity. The field reads tone, and so do courts, councils, and children. This is how mercy and order stop being enemies and become allies with different talents. So you keep practicing not to escape the world, but to midwife it. You become the kind of presence that makes collective phase transitions less violent. You are not waiting for a savior event. You are amplifying a savior frequency that many can carry. One breath at a time, the mirror clears. One choice at a time, the next century takes better notes. And somewhere, because you trusted before you could prove, a door you will never see opens for someone you will never meet, and history quietly adjusts its course. It arrives without sirens, more like the way a season turns. Your life does not split with violence. It separates with precision, like a crystal choosing its lattice. You feel it as a pressure gradient across your chest, two airs touching, one familiar and thin with bargaining, one unfamiliar and generous with oxygen. This is the crossroads of timelines, the quiet geometry of bifurcation where the quantum field asks a simple, sovereign question. Which climate will you keep breathing? On one path, you continue to request proof before you release your vigilance. The observer loop there is efficient at manufacturing delay. You scan for absence. The scan becomes meaning. Meaning contracts your state. Contraction colors your behavior. Behavior elicits hesitant responses, and the environment hands you the very emptiness you feared. It is not punishment, it is symmetry. Your signal instructs the lattice to remain uncondensed, and the bridge refuses to pretend it exists when your foot is not yet willing to step. On the other path, you accept the risk that trust is not a risk at all, but a correct reading of reality. You breathe as if safety can be authored from within, and coherence begins to collect like dew on a field before sunrise. The observer loop reroutes. You notice invitations that were previously inaudible, assign them as coordinates, your nervous system downshifts, behavior becomes unforced and exact, environments reconfigure to meet your unforced exactness, and evidence arrives as an afterglow. Again, not reward, resonance. The split is energetic first, logistical later. You know you're standing in it when ordinary decisions carry a ceremonial weight. Whether to answer that message now or after you settle your breath. Whether to speak to prove you're right or to serve what's true. Whether to scroll yourself numb or to sit long enough for silence to become articulate. Each choice seems small because the field hides the size of thresholds inside mundane doors. But under the surface, morphic resonance is listening, ready to propagate whichever tone you stabilize. Reverence belongs here, not the brittle piety that fears missteps, but the tender awareness that your posture writes instructions into matter. Watch how the body tells the truth. Jaw slackening when you choose allowance, shoulders lowering when you choose responsibility, eyes softening when you choose presence. These micro-movements are not theatrics, they are switches. They alter the currents that fold proteins, the timing of neural firing, the cohering of heart rhythms. Biophotons whisper differently through your tissues when you say yes without a receipt. In the physics of becoming, tone is talk. You will be tempted to dramatize this moment, to declare aloud which timeline you choose as if volume could guarantee fidelity. Resist spectacle. The field is deaf to theatrics and exquisitely sensitive to congruence. Make the choice where it counts. In the breath you are taking right now, in the angle of your spine, in the story you tell your cells about what reality is like. Tell them it is a place where trust does not make you pray, it makes you precise. Tell them evidence is not a guardrail, it is a footprint that appears behind you as you walk. Notice too the social echo. When you abide in trust before proof, some will feel threatened not by you, but by the invitation your presence represents. Their bargaining posture may tighten. They may test you with cynicism, offer you their storm, ask you to hold it the way they do. You are not required to absorb it. Coherence does not mean compliance. It means clarity. Let your boundary be a clean line that does not injure as it protects. Let your no carry the same dignity as your yes. The field reads dignity as signal quality and strengthens your correlation with futures and allies tuned to that key. Entanglement meets you here with logistics. Two messages arrive on the same day, two doors open in the same hour. One smells like the old corridor transaction cloaked as opportunity, urgency impersonating purpose. The other is quieter and somehow inevitable. You may not be able to articulate why the second is true, only that your body stops bracing when you stand near it. That is your metric. Choose coherence even when the first door offers admiration. Choose coherence especially then. The future you trust is not asking to be impressed. It is asking to be inhabited. There will be grief. You will set down methods that kept you alive when the air was thinner. Honor them as you retire them. Grief is not evidence of error. It is evidence that you are leaving a timeline with love, not contempt. Love closes loops cleanly. Contempt leaves hooks that tug you backward when you are tired. If tears come, let them be part of the phase transition, salt organizing the new crystal. Now, let the choice finalize not by proclamation but by practice. Inhale as if the answer is here. Exhale longer than you inhale. Feel the choir inside you retune. In this exact breath, the two airs diverge, and you feel which one your lungs prefer. The bridge extends a plank. The river chooses a side of the stone. Without spectacle, without haste, you step. Now you make it ordinary, because only the ordinary can carry the holy without cracking. Integration means you treat trust before proof, not as an event, but as hygiene, a daily ecology of breath, posture, tone, and choice. Begin where nothing argues, your inhale and exhale. Let the exhale be longer. That single ratio tells your nervous system that life is not an emergency, and coherence blooms quietly behind the scenes. 5 minutes morning and night, in through the nose, out through the mouth like warm fog on winter glass. Feel the edges of your body soften, as if your skin remembered it is a shoreline, not a wall. Next, set your posture by a simple geometry. Crown lifted like a thread to the sun, tailbone heavy like a stone in a riverbed, shoulder blades settling as if they found home. This is not performance, it is physics. Structure changes signal. The quantum field reads curvature, the way an orchestra reads a conductor's hands. When your spine arranges itself along its native axis, microcurrents align, heart rhythms entrain, neural chatter decrescendos into a signal the field can answer. You are not trying to look spiritual, you are becoming audible. Give your attention a craft. Choose 3 anchors you will return to whenever you notice bargaining rise. Breath, ground, sound. Breath, the longer exhale. Ground, the felt weight of your feet or seat, the simple gravities that never left you. Sound, one ambient tone refrigerator, hum, distant car, a single bird that you allow to be enough. These anchors are not escapes. They are switches that pull you back from the counterfeit urgency that splinters your observer loop. Each return to anchor is a vote for coherence, and morphic resonance counts votes. Let the day become a field laboratory. In conversation, practice the 1-second delay before you answer. That second is a tiny stillness window where the old reflex to prove or defend can dissolve, and a truer reply can surface. In that window, your tone reselects itself from the deeper shelf. Tone is the currency the world trusts. Speak from what is present, not from what you fear. Notice how logistics adjust. Emails find kinder language. Meetings end earlier because clarity replaces performance. Invitations appear that match the signal you keep. Feed your environment with cues that hold you. A bowl at the door where you leave your phone during meals. A glass of water on your desk that you regard as an instrument, not a cup each sip. A micro-ritual of allowance. Light a candle evening and morning, not for drama, but to anchor the endocrine tides to a rhythm your cells can predict. Predictability is mercy for the body. Mercy frees energy for creation. Creation stabilizes timelines. This is the arithmetic of integration. Small mercies multiplied become infrastructure for revelation. Attend to the observer loop at the level of meaning. When something delays, retire the superstition that delay equals danger. Replace it with a sentence you can believe. Rearrangement is proof that the lattice is listening. Let that meaning cascade downstream. State softens, behavior remains precise. Environment has room to respond intelligently. Synchronicity increases not as spectacle but as rightness. The text arrives as you free the hour. The mentor writes back after you stop gripping the outcome. The idea lands in the shower because tension stopped monopolizing your bandwidth. Invite entanglement on purpose. Each morning, choose one quality to broadcast: clean, simple, embodied. I broadcast clarity. I broadcast welcome. I broadcast steadiness. Feel the word in your sternum until it takes on temperature. Then move through ordinary tasks, washing dishes, commuting, answering, and let your body be a transmitter. You are not pushing signal, you are allowing it to leak through your edges. Notice who calls, which door lights up, how strangers mirror the quality back. That is the field confirming correlation without needing to be theatrical. Tend to grief and residue as they arise. Integration is not a bypass, it is a compost. When old fear visits, do not audit it for truth, host it for completion. Place a hand on the spot it lives, breathe the longer exhale, say, "You kept me alive, I am safe now." In that acknowledgement, DNA restructuring continues. It's patient work, epigenetic switches toggling from alarm to learning mode, mitochondria releasing energy they once hoarded for crisis. The body is loyal. Give it a new story to be loyal to. Practice thresholds. Before you enter a room, pause at the lintel and choose a climate, scarcity or invitation. Before you open a message, choose dignity over speed. Before sleep, choose gratitude without inventory. Feel it as warmth rather than words. These micro-rites lace your day with phase transitions so gentle they appear invisible until your life feels widely air-conditioned by ease. Finally, keep a ledger of proofs you did not require, not to gloat, but to educate memory. Write down the bridge planks that appeared only after you stepped. Review them when bargaining tries to resurrect itself. Let remembrance be your science. The quantum field rewards continuity. You reward yourself with evidence in arrears. This is the quiet thunder of integration. You make trust domestic. You embed prophecy in dishes and emails. You walk as if the world is already cooperating and watch as it learns your pace and agrees. Now, less effort, less naming, less reaching for a horizon that arrives only when you stop leaning. Sit. Let the room keep its ordinary shape. Feel the chair agree with your weight. Do not improve your breath. Notice it. A tide already knows what to do. Long exhale, not as technique, but as truth remembering itself. In the hush that follows, the edges of things soften. The quantum field is not far. It is the quiet fabric holding the cup, the wall, your hands. You are not trying to touch it. You are allowing that it has always been touching you. Listen for the thin silver line of sound that threads through every space, the refrigerator's murmur, a bird 2 streets away, the pulse in your ear. Let one sound become enough. Meaning loosens its grip. The observer loop idles in neutral. No bargaining, no forecasts. Notice how coherence does not arrive with fireworks. It arrives like dusk. Shadows lengthen, colors turn honest. The room inhales with you. Thoughts walk across the field like small weather. Let them keep their names and pass. A memory, a plan, a sentence trying to finish itself. Bless each as you would. A traveler at a station, no need to board. Platforms are a kind of prayer. Under the drift of thinking, a softer instrument tunes. It hums in the sternum, where your yes lives without grammar. Touch that place with attention, the way sunlight touches a leaf, lightly, evenly, without demand. Feel the temperature change. Phase transition in micro. The choir of cells hears the cue. DNA restructuring continues like librarians reshelving books in the right wing. Quiet competence, no announcement. Biophotons speak in lantern code from tissue to tissue. Safe, safe, safe. Let the spine remember the sky. Crown buoyant, tail heavy. The body is not a problem to solve. It is a sanctuary built to host a frequency. In stillness, entanglement clarifies. You can feel the faint tug of lives woven with yours, the friend you have not met yet, leaning over their own tea, pausing at the same moment. The teacher 3 cities away, setting down a pen. The child somewhere deciding not to be afraid of the hallway tonight. Morphic resonance at human scale, no spectacle, just the world agreeing to a cleaner no. If emotion rises, let it. Tears are not interruptions, they are the river removing silt from its own mouth. If nothing rises, let that. Emptiness is not lack, it is capacity. You are retraining perception to love unoccupied space. Creation does its best work there. Watch what silence does to time. Minutes widen like doors. Urgency loses its costume and reveals simple movement. The next breath, the next choice, the next kindness. Destiny rarely shouts here. It places a small stone in your palm and trusts you to understand the path by the way it warms against your skin. Repeat the simplest sentence. I am available, not to everything, only to what matches the tone. Availability is not surrendering boundaries. It is letting the field sort invitations on your behalf. In this light, refusal is also holy. A quiet no can protect a whole week of yes. Notice how the room answers your restraint. Corners seem less sharp, colors deepen. Your name feels less like a label and more like an echo that keeps finding you. You are not dissolving. You are becoming precise by removing the noise that made you appear fuzzy. Let gratitude happen the way a window happens to a wall. An opening, not a performance. One detail is enough. The weight of your own hands, the way water remembers your mouth, the mercy of a door that closes and opens on command. Gratitude is coherence spoken in the dialect of simple things. If prayer wants to arrive, let it be for clarity, not outcomes. Make me accurate. Accuracy is mercy. Accuracy prevents you from lifting loads that don't belong to you and from refusing the one that does. The field is efficient with accurate people. Logistics shorten, paths straighten, proof stops needing to be hunted. It appears like dew. Stay a little longer than you think you have time for. That extra minute is where the deepest retuning completes, like a kiln cooling, like ink drying, like bread resting after the heat. Nothing dramatic to see. Everything decisive to feel. When you rise, do not break the spell. Carry it the way a lake carries the sky, ordinary surface, precise reflection. Move slowly enough that doorways can bless you and you can bless them back. The silence is not behind you. It travels as a climate. In this climate, the world speaks in right-sized invitations. In this climate, your presence is a soft command that matter understands. Now, keep walking. The bridge knows your cadence. The day will meet you in your own key. It happens quietly, the way a seed stops being a secret. The practices are no longer separate from you. They have braided into a single tone your body recognizes as home. Activation is not a lightning strike. It is a threshold that has finally learned your name. You feel it first as heat, a low golden warmth in the chest, then as clarity, an ease that makes unnecessary movements obvious and easy to release. The quantum field does not need a louder signal from you. It needs a cleaner one. Tonight, it receives you without static. Let attention settle in the sternum, the chamber where trust breathes, even when thoughts are occupied elsewhere. Inhale to meet it, exhale to agree with it. A soft phase transition begins. The observer loop no longer roots through doubt before it reports reality. It roots through coherence. Perception selects invitations, meaning assigns them as coordinates. State aligns. Behavior answers with unforced exactness. Environment crystallizes. You are not summoning miracles, you are ceasing to interrupt them. Now speak, not to the room, but to the lattice. Fewer words, greater accuracy. I am available to what matches this tone. The sentence places a stencil over the day. Offers that require you to abandon coherence dim without drama. Paths that respect your nervous system's new baseline brighten with an inevitability that feels like relief. This is entanglement, doing logistics, threads, tightening with people and possibilities already tuned to your key. Slack loosening where you used to compensate for misalignments that cost too much. You notice how time obeys. Tasks reorder themselves according to dignity rather than spectacle. The email that mattered rises to the top of perception without a productivity hack. The meeting that would have drained the field cancels itself, replaced by a call that advances the work with half the effort. Synchronicity is not a party trick. It is the supply chain of a coherent life. Your willingness to trust before proof is now embedded in the infrastructure. The bridge does not assemble one plank at a time anymore. Whole sections appear because the algorithm recognizes your gait. Let the body confirm, jaw loose, eyes soft, spine tall. The heart's rhythms entrain to a steadier tempo. Vagal tone hums like a well-tuned instrument. Breath becomes the metronome of right timing. On this setting, DNA restructuring is not exceptional, it is routine. Cells read the new story safe, accurate, generous, and express genes that repair and learn. Biophotons increase their whispering cadence, passing messages of sufficiency from tissue to tissue. You are not performing spirituality. You are running clean power through an upgraded grid. Expect tests, do not fear them. A glittering shortcut appears, promising speed at the price of self-betrayal. The old reflex reaches for it out of habit. Pause inside the stillness window you've practiced. Ask one question: what preserves coherence? Then obey the body's answer, not the mind's negotiation. The shortcut dissolves like fog. In its place, the next right step reveals itself with the subtle authority of something that does not need your adrenaline to exist. This is how activation protects itself. Attend to language. You retire phrases that smuggled out. If this works, I hope it's enough. We'll see. Replace them with sentences that do not overreach and do not retreat. This matches, this doesn't, this is mine, this is not. Precision is compassion for all parties. The field loves clean edges, people do too. Boundaries stop feeling like fences and start functioning as doors that know when to open. Notice the social halo. Friends speak more honestly around you because your tone licenses honesty. Collaborators show their real capacity because your presence stops rewarding performance. Even conflict feels different, less like a courtroom, more like a studio where truth is sculpted together. Morphic resonance distributes your steadiness without depleting you. You are not the source, only a reliable conduit that invites others to remember their own. Let gratitude appear as a report, not a strategy. It says, I can feel the lattice answering, and then it gets out of the way. Do not index miracles as trophies, index them as calibration data. Keep your ledger of proofs you did not require. Review it as a scientist of remembrance. The message that arrived 5 minutes after you released the outcome. The payment that cleared the day you chose rest over panic. The apology that found you after you stopped rehearsing your defense. Each entry teaches your system the mathematics of a friendlier universe. This is activation. The prophecy ceases to be content and becomes conductance. You stop describing the bridge and simply walk. You stop arguing with rivers and learn their bends. You stop asking the field to prove itself and realize it has been holding you the entire time. The world will still bring weather storms, bright noons, long gray afternoons. Your task is unchanged. Keep the tone, keep the geometry, keep the breath. What matches will find you. What doesn't will release you without residue. And each step you take leaves a footprint of coherence that others can follow when they are ready. When you lie down tonight, feel the soft echo of the day returning to bless you, not as spectacle, but as rightness. Whisper, if words want to come, make me accurate. Then sleep inside the hum of a field that recognizes itself in you and continues arranging dawn accordingly. You stand where beginnings wear the clothes of endings, and endings reveal themselves as doors. The bridge behind you glows faintly, not as nostalgia, but as proof you never demanded and now no longer need. The river has learned your name, the lattice knows your gate. You feel the day bow in quiet reciprocity as the quantum field completes its promise. Tone became threshold, and threshold became path. Let the seal set here in breath, in posture, in the honesty of your inner weather. Inhale, as if the future is already fluent in you. Exhale longer, and let what is unnecessary release without argument. This is not performance, this is fidelity. You have practiced coherence until it ceased to be a practice and revealed itself as your native climate. Trust before proof is no longer a strategy, it is your atmosphere. Within it, the observer loop roots through remembrance. Perception selects what matches, meaning tells a clean story, state steadies, behavior answers with precision, environment condenses into rightness. The field reads you clearly now, because you read yourself clearly. Bless what kept you alive in the thinner air, vigilance, bargaining, the reflex to collect forecasts. Thank them and retire them. Lay down the armor that made every corridor a campaign. Accuracy does not need armor. Your boundary speaks in a tone that does not wound even as it refuses. Your yes carries gravity, your no carries mercy. Entanglement aligns around such sincerity, bringing companions whose presence multiplies strength without summoning strain. Synchronicity shifts from surprise to rhythm, the way tides stop being miracles when you live beside the sea. Remember the 3 circles and the line: presence, intention, allowance, kept true by responsibility. Keep them aligned as liturgy, not as labor. Presence without intention drifts. Intention without allowance hardens. Allowance without responsibility dissolves. Responsibility holds the axis, so power remains clean. When you forget, return to the simplest geometry. Crown buoyant, tail heavy, breath kind. The body will remind the mind. The mind will remember the field. The field will answer, as it has always answered, with logistics that appear inevitable in hindsight. You will be asked to lead, perhaps without title. Lead by climate. Carry rooms into coherence simply by staying regulated when noise invites relapse. Teach not with proclamations but with pace. Let others borrow your steadiness until their own remembers itself. This is how prophecy fulfills itself: distributed, cellular, ordinary, no stage required, only a life that does not contradict its tone. Now seal it with the sentence you have learned to trust. I am available to what matches this frequency. Speak it once, inwardly, like a signature etched where no thief can reach. The lattice receives your mark, timelines align, threads tighten. Doors that are yours remain open. Those that are not close gently without resentment. Walk on. Let gratitude trail you like light. Let evidence arrive as dew. Let each step be a footprint in which those arriving later can place their feet and feel the ground hold. The prophecy has been spoken. Let it unfold through you.